If you think that the vehicle you're working on may have an issue with an ignition coil, we've got some simple tips on how to diagnose and replace faulty ignition coils. Hi, I'm Connor from Delphi. If the vehicle you're working on is exhibiting hard starts, rough idling, misfires, poor fuel economy, backfiring, or the check engine light has come on, one possible issue is a faulty ignition coil. Using a scan tool, check the ignition coils for issues by reading the DTC fault codes for the specific ignition coil. Check for misfire codes starting with P0300 and note that for each individual cylinder, the PCM adds the cylinder number to the code, such as P0303 for cylinder 3. Ignition coil DTCs start with P035, and an example would be a P0352 DTC for cylinder 2 ignition coil. The codes can be set for a defective coil, circuit issues, or PCM driver failure. Read any fault codes and live data. If the fault codes or data readings you're seeing indicate an issue with the coil, turn the ignition off and unplug the electrical connector from the coil. On this vehicle, unscrew the bolts holding it in place, and then carefully lift the coil out of its mounting. Before checking the coil with your multimeter, inspect it for any signs of damage, such as burn marks, cracks in the housing, or damage to the electrical wiring or plug connections. You should also remove and inspect the spark plug. Next, check the voltage supply to the coil. With the ignition on, you should see a voltage close to 12 volts. If it's less, the problem may be something other than the coil. Finally, check the coil's primary and secondary circuits, if applicable. If the ignition coil has 3, 4, 5, or 7 wires, refer to a wiring diagram to know which leads to measure the coils on. Refer to the vehicle manufacturer's specifications for the correct resistance. Most coils have a primary resistance ranging from 0.4 to 2 ohms, and a secondary between 5,000 to 20,000. If either the primary or secondary coil is out of specification, then replace the coil. A 0 reading indicates a shorted coil, and a high reading indicates an open coil. Again, you'll want to replace the coil, and it's recommended that you replace all spark plugs at the same time. If you've confirmed the coil is faulty, here's how to replace it. Make sure the vehicle ignition is turned off. Apply dielectric grease to the boot of the new coil and its electrical socket. This will prevent corrosion and ensure a good connection. Slide the new coil into its housing. Tighten the bolts to the recommended torque, then reattach the electronic connector. Be sure to erase any fault codes and reset the engine warning light if needed. And finally, do a road test to ensure everything is in good working order. Coils fail for a variety of reasons. Damaged spark plugs or plug wires can cause the coil's output voltage to surge, potentially damaging the coil's internal insulation and resulting in a short circuit. A worn plug or excessive spark plug gap can force the coil to generate a higher voltage to create a spark. The added strain on the coil can result in a voltage overload, which in turn can lead to overheating. Over time, engine vibration can damage the ignition coil windings and insulation, resulting in shorts or breaks in the secondary windings. Vibration can also loosen the electrical connection at the spark plug, forcing the coil to work overtime to fire the spark plug. The high temperatures in the engine bay can reduce the coil's ability to conduct electricity, impacting both its performance and service life. A short or low resistance in the coil winding will increase the electricity flow through the coil, potentially causing damage to the entire system. Changes in resistance may also cause a weak spark, which can prevent the vehicle from starting and damage both the ignition coil and surrounding parts. Excessive moisture can accumulate around the coil, potentially damaging both the ignition coil and spark plug. The moisture could be oil from a leaking valve cover or water from AC condensation. We hope these tips will help you diagnose and replace faulty ignition coils. Subscribe to our channel below so you can refer to this video in the future and have access to other service videos from Delphi. And check out DelphiAutoparts.com for other great resources. I'm Connor with Delphi. Thanks for watching.